Hey everybody, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. It is Monday, and a lot of Monday madness with Donald Trump, to say the least. As you can see, Olivia Troye joining me on the program, Michael Cohen for Monday coming up a little later. We're going to be talking about our live town hall coming up Tuesday evening in New York City. Olivia will be there. We're hoping, we're praying. We're gonna we'll be sending a limo. We'll be sending carriage and white horses, whatever it
Yes.
takes.
Carrier pigeons. Pigeons are fine.
All of those things.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about all that a little bit later because I definitely want to get to Michael and we'll discuss that as well. We've got some great guests lined up. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to get into some very serious stuff because I mean, there's some really serious stuff flying around today. And I mean, I'm just going to start it with this sentence, quote, "The homegrowns are next." That is a quote from Donald Trump. Trump is looking to expand his program of deportations in this country. He's considering the idea of sending U.S. citizens to what critics have described as a modern day gulag in Central America, also known as
Yeah.
the CCOT prison for terrorists and gang members, as that country describes them in El Salvador. Consider what Trump said in the Oval Office earlier today with the president of El Salvador. Trump told reporters he's contemplating the idea of deporting U.S. citizens to this prison in El Salvador if they've committed certain crimes. He cited acts of violence. But Olivia, you heard this. He seemed to leave the idea open ended, adding he wants the White House to look into the prospect. And this is the quote. He said, "The homegrowns are next." Mediaite was reporting this. Those are the chilling words uttered by Trump to El Salvador's President Bukele, surreptitiously captured in a casual Oval Office conversation before the White House pool entered. Aaron Rupar captured it. Jonathan Lemire shared it. But I mean, these comments are very chilling because it wasn't just the moment that Aaron Rupar captured. Trump was being asked about this as well by a reporter, and he sort of played with this idea that if people is committing certain crimes, if they've been convicted of committing certain crimes, that they might get sent out of this country to this this modern day gulag. Olivia, it's just downright chilling.
Yeah, and a gulag that is in a country that is known for human rights abuses in these types of detention facilities. And I just question where is the sort of the human rights approach to this of what's going to
Mhm.
happen if we're just going to disappear people into foreign nation facilities with no oversight. And I say this as someone, by the way, little known fact, who worked on Guantanamo Bay issues many years ago. And it really is reminiscent of sort of remembering what happened there, the stain that it was, I would say, in America in many ways. And now we're going to be sending American citizens everywhere. And, they already tried to send people to Gitmo. They're looking at building out facilities there. And I already had concerns about that. But
Yeah.
watching the press conference today in the Oval, and hearing that type of language, first of all, who's going to define the homegrown,
Right.
right? I mean, that was my first question is who's defining this? And when he says that it's going to be Pam Bondi and DOJ, well, what and Cash Patel at the FBI, like what kind of confidence do I have in terms of how
Yeah.
they're going to make these definitions? And it's really just it's very Putin-esque, is what I would say.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. It was very reminiscent of that in terms of how they're going to go about this. And look, Jim, I don't have any doubt that they will carry this to fruition. I
Yeah.
think this is all part of a greater strategy, and we should be very concerned, which is why I'm very concerned about when they're taking, immigrants off the streets and they're sending them away like this. We should all be concerned because it's really just one step closer to Trump's strategy of silencing dissent, controlling everything, and
Yeah.
operating outside of the law and norms, right? Because that's what's
Yeah.
really what this is.
Yeah, I mean, Trump said he wanted to be a dictator on day one. He lied. As it turns out, he wanted to be a dictator on day two, day three, and all the days after that. I mean, he continues to talk in that fashion. He continues to sound like an authoritarian leader, like an autocrat. And the question, as you put it, Olivia, and I think one of the viewers who just chimed in with a question put it, where is Congress? Where is the
Yes.
Speaker? Where is the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune? In what world um, do we live in where they are not saying, no, Mr. President, that is not acceptable? I mean, I just, you and I have had lots of conversations about this because I just can't imagine any judge in this country or the Supreme Court. just having the audacity to go along with Trump and these kinds of plans. But my goodness, we can't say that nothing is possible these days, because I mean he absolutely seems to want to do these things. And, what is CCOT? The Washington Post wrote about this. Little is known about the inmates held at CCOT, an isolated mega prison in the town of Tocoluca. At least 60,000 alleged gang members were arrested in El Salvador during
Mhm.
CCOT's rapid construction, according to the Associated Press. And then there was a human rights observer, Ana Maria Mendez Dardon, the director for Central America at the Washington Office of Latin America. She said this to the Washington Post: "We don't know how many of these men have been charged or convicted with crimes, if they have access to a lawyer, or if they have been or will be presented in front of a judge." And Olivia, I mean, what's scary about this is that when you have the president of the United States saying, "Okay, well, maybe we'll just start outsourcing, deportations and prisoners that we don't want in this country down to El Salvador," it sounds like in El Salvador there isn't the same kind of constitutional process, same kind of due process that we have here.
That's exactly it. I
Yeah,
mean, we are basically deferring our judicial system and our due process, and we're outsourcing it overseas. And I
yeah,
can tell you that was quite clever. I mean, that is a classic Stephen Miller special,
yeah,
especially when it came to this individual, that we have no idea if this man is ever going to see his family again. Right?
yeah,
That to me is heartbreaking. And I think, you know, I think this was what the plan was all along, Jim. Is I
yeah,
think, they don't really think that the law applies to them. And I think that they think that they can just kind of skirt around it. And so now, we've got the Supreme Court weighed in on this individual. But what they did is they used the Oval Office, they used a foreign leader to come in who already behaves in a dictatorial fashion, right?
right,
That's what the president of El Salvador is known for in terms of what's happening in his own country. And of course, they knew what the outcome was going to be. But
yeah,
yes, the combination of that combined with the mention that American citizens possibly could be going to these facilities. And, I mean, Trump basically said it out loud, right? Because he always says what he's going to do out loud.
yep.
He doesn't hold secrets very well. He tells us. And he did say, he's like, you're going to need to build 5 more of these.
That's right.
That
He did it.
Stacey's
He
got
also
big
said that
plans.
too.
He was
No,
very
and
specific.
I like to say, for as dishonest as he is, he can be remarkably candid, and that was one of those moments. And I mean, some of this centered around, I mean, this came up because the president of El Salvador and Trump both basically said that they had no basis for El Salvador to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was wrongly deported there last month. So Bukele is saying, no, I'm not sending him back. The Trump administration is basically thumbing its nose at the judge, for saying no, he has to come back. And I mean, the Supreme Court has weighed in on all of this, and so Trump is now openly defying the judicial system, and there doesn't seem to be any recourse. It just seems to be he's just going to do this and keep tempting the courts to do something about it.
I think that's the point too. It's
Yeah,
pushing the boundaries,
yeah,
right? Because okay, what can we get away with this time? We pushed it. We're going to get away with this. And I think that is the whole point. Is that I think that that is what they're testing out. And so, what's the next litmus test? And I think
yeah,
you're incredibly you're correct, and people watching right now are correct. Where is Congress on this? Are we a
yeah.
nation of laws? Are Republicans just going to stand there and say, "Well, we're going to let him get away with it because we're going to support him no matter what he does," even though it really is eroding at one of the main pillars of what we stand for as a country. And where does it end? Where does it stop?
You know. No, you're absolutely right. And I know, Olivia, you and I were talking about some of this offline the other day. We made plans to talk about this on the show. We'll talk about it tomorrow night in New York. But the situation regarding Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs, we saw Trump last week. Maybe he was trying to distract everybody from the way he was handling and mishandling the tariffs, and threatening to blow up the global financial system. But he signed these executive orders. He announced that he's going to have the Justice Department go after Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs. I know you worked with Miles during the first Trump administration. Miles, of course, wrote that famous op-ed saying that he's inside the Trump administration acting as sort of like the resistance. And then he wrote that book, A Warning, which was warning about all of the things that were being done inside the Trump White House. And then really all Chris Krebs did, he was in charge of CISA over at the Department of Homeland Security, the cybersecurity office over there. He basically came out after the 2020 election and said that the election of 2020 was just fine. And that pissed off
Yeah,
Trump
that
enough
was
where he
enough.
became persona non grata. And I know you were upset about this. I was upset about this because this was again, this was Donald, and it fits in with what we're talking about today. It's Donald Trump talking about going after private citizens of the United States citizens, simply for getting in his crosshairs and saying something that he doesn't like. And you and I were both upset about it because it just didn't get enough coverage. This should have been headline
Yes.
Washington Post, New York Times, every evening newscast. But because we're all sipping from this fire hose of bullshit these days, this kind of stuff gets buried, and it shouldn't happen.
No, and Donald Trump, on the very first day that he entered his second term in office, signed that executive order, which was all pomp and circumstance and projection of ending the weaponization of the federal government. Remember that? And
Yes.
so I think this is the exact weaponization of the federal government that we are watching, where he is directing the Department of Justice to conduct these investigations against two I want to say that again, Republican officials
Right.
who served in his administration and very loyally until the end, like until all this goes down, when they realize, like, one, they have an obligation to uphold the Constitution, two, all they did was tell the truth. And, Chris Krebs, he was doing his job. That's what he was doing. And the president fired him via tweet. I think people have
Yeah.
forgotten that piece of it. And so now here we are 5 years later. And I think Trump is still litigating the 2020 election. I guess he's forgotten that he's, back in office. He doesn't seem to
Yeah.
really kind of embrace that. It's like, okay, you won. Okay, you're back in there. And you're still upset and mad at 2020. And so I
Yeah.
was just, I think what I found so upsetting about this is that that was clearly pomp and circumstance and theatrics in the Oval Office to silence people. It was to send a message. And it was scary, Jim, because I
Mm,
actually got a text and they said, turn on Fox News right now. And I
mm.
did turn it on. And part of it, I have to be honest, I was waiting. I was like, okay, is my name next? Like, who's
Yeah.
next on this? And this isn't normal. I mean, this is
Not normal.
clearly an attempt to use the Department of Justice. I mean, it's very broad the way they worded it in this, and also really disturbing that the president used the word treason. And he said
Yeah.
it during the press conference when it came to Miles Taylor, that
What's the
this was
treason?
treason. I'd love to know. And
What's the
so
treason? Yeah.
I guess, and that I think to me was something that we cannot let go under the radar, because this was a big deal, because this
Yeah.
was Trump really formally taking a step on retribution, right? And he's doing it
Yeah.
again, by the way. He's right now starting to go after CBS. He's going after the media. This is another step in retribution. And I think we just need to watch this very closely. And I'm waiting to see what they do next on these EOs with Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor. And I can tell you, I'm so heartbroken for their families
Yeah.
and the toll that it takes on that. And then I'm looking around and saying, well, I hope that there are still lawyers out there that are going to help and stand up for individuals when
Yeah.
Trump does this, because that's why he went after the law firms first, right? I mean, this is all one big thing.
Yeah. I mean, you said a couple of things that I want to play off of. One is, I mean, for all of the talk that people in the media or the Democrats can't get over the 2020 election and January 6th, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump
Right.
is the one who can't get over the 2020 election, that he lost the 2020 election, and that he incited an insurrection on January 6th. He is responsible for that. He is responsible for, all of those things because he could not accept the loss that he sustained in that election. And the problem that I have with all of this, Olivia, is and I think you touched on this earlier, is that it sounds as though, I mean, he's back in the White House, like you said, so one would think he should get over this, but it sounds as though he's somehow so damaged as a person that this is it's haunting him. It's like it's that expression about living rent free in his head. Miles and Chris Krebs must live rent free in his head. The president of the United States, it can't afford to have that kind of stuff going on, those kinds of squirrels running around in his head. I mean, the president of the United States needs to be able to make decisions, run the country, run the government. You can't be worried about going after your, enemies, real and imagined. And that's the thing that concerns me almost more than anything. I mean, the part that we can pick people up off the streets or put them under investigation and so on to punish them and go after them, that's obviously very worrisome.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is the guy who has the nuclear suitcase, the nuclear football, and
Yeah.
he just there's something wrong there.
Yeah, and he's using the power of the Oval Office and every executive level lever that he has,
Yeah,
right, to possibly go after his critics. And I think, they could have done a private letter. They could have done an investigation letter. They could have issued
yeah,
that. They could have done it silently. But no, he chose to have this moment in the Oval, have this press conference where they're reading it out loud, talking
yeah.
about both individuals. I mean, it was all
What was
theatrics
that?
on purpose, right? And so it was shocking, to be honest. I mean, the
Yeah,
second I started watching it, I was like, here we go. And the president of the United States is holding a press conference right now talking about critics. And I think it really is meant to continue the pattern of silencing dissent. That's what it
yeah,
is. And it
and I
worked.
think
The next day, no reporter asked him, right? I was waiting. I
that
was like, can somebody please ask him?
and I
Ask him
remember you
about
were
the
upset
EOs?
about that. I mean, it's just
Yes.
as I said in my social media post and I said on the show, it's just downright un-American when he's done
Yes.
with Miles and Chris. But you mentioned the CBS thing, and this falls right in with what you were just saying. Trump railed against CBS on Sunday night, according to the Hill, saying the network should lose its broadcast license after 60 Minutes aired segments on Ukraine and Greenland. That the president said cast him in a negative light. He said on Truth Social they should lose their license. Hopefully, the FCC, as headed by its highly respected chairman Brendan Carr, will impose the maximum fines and punishment, which is substantial, for their unlawful and illegal behavior. CBS is out of control. Blah blah blah. I mean, you're and here's the concern that I have is that CBS apparently is in talks to negotiate a settlement with Trump. And this goes back to what I've said time and again, and I know you feel the same way. You can't bend the knee. You can't bow down to the tyrant. It just gives him more ammunition. It just feeds these voices in his head, and it has to stop. I mean, we're starting to see some people say, no, we're not going to go along with this. But we're seeing major institutions going along with this. And I just think it's going to make matters worse,
No, you're
unfortunately.
absolutely right. I think it
Yeah.
just enables him. And it also gives him it fueled his ego and this inner circle that's surrounding him, enabling him and allowing him to do these things. And so I
Yeah.
think when people are bending the knee and when they're giving in to his demands, it's just another step, another gain for him. And that is why it's so upsetting to watch organizations like this sort of try to figure out, well, oh, if I negotiate now, I'll get back in the good graces and then it'll shift. But guess what? He
Yeah.
doesn't stop going after you, right? Even
Right.
when you make changes, he's not going to change. It really is about full control. It's about
Yeah.
controlling everything. And that is the sort of authoritarian impulse of Donald Trump, is that it really is about controlling every lever of the government and
Yeah.
society and all the messaging and the strategy on it that goes along with it.
Yeah. I mean, and he's mad about with Chris and Miles. He's mad about things that have happened 4, 5, 6 years ago. I mean, it's incredible. And Olivia, it just worries me to no end. And, there's also some of the absurdities of all of this, too. I mean, the president of El Salvador wasn't wearing a suit in the Oval Office. I mean, where were the questions about his suit?
There weren't.
There were, it just, some of this is absurd. And I get that it's absurd. But, um, and I hate to, go down the path of saying, "Oh, Trump is scary and what he's saying is frightening," because I think that's what he wants,
Mhm.
but he is taking things to a level that I don't think he even did during his first term.
No, I think this is way worse. I think that the first term was a practice run, and I think what they're doing now, like I said before, is that they are going to continue to push the boundaries. And like this is
Yeah,
a group of people that I have heard directly firsthand say that we'll let the law catch up to us, just do it, and we'll keep going. And
yeah,
so it is disturbing in situations like we saw today where the law is there and the law has come through and it has ruled and it is standing there and it is trying to hold the line and they found a way to skirt around the law and they're just going to continue moving forward. And
yeah,
I think when we see executive orders like the ones he issued last week, what he's doing with CBS, I think it should not go unnoticed. And I think we have an obligation to talk to each other and tell your neighbors and explain to them what's going on. Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that really don't understand still the magnitude of what these executive orders on Miles Taylor mean, what it could mean. Because if you don't think that it can happen to you someday, it's likely going to if we continue down this path, because we're either a country that still believes in our constitution, the freedom of speech. Are we still into free speech, or is it free speech only for certain people now, and we're going to silence the rest? And so I think we're going to continue to see these tests for our country.
Yeah. No, I mean, CBS has a right to free speech, and I hope, I mean, things are not resolved in that area, so I hope that they'll hang tough and not give in here. We talked a little bit about, we sort of hinted at Zelensky there a little bit. I mean, Trump again accused Zelensky of starting the war with Russia. That was the other outrageous thing that he did earlier today. There's so many outrageous things, it's hard to get to them all. But I know you've
Yes.
also, as a former national security advisor to the vice president, I mean, this is, I mean, again, I think it goes back a little bit to what you were saying about free speech and so on. It's only free speech if it agrees with his points of view and what goes on inside his head. And he is trying to gaslight everybody about Ukraine, and it's astounding to me that he keeps saying
Yes.
that Ukraine started this war, which is straight up Putin talking points.
Yeah, it's delivering Russian propaganda in the Oval Office.
Yeah,
Right? What better megaphone for Putin? I mean, he's got a direct microphone with someone delivering it to Americans in this way. And that is incredibly disturbing to many of us who worked in national security, who've been watching this for a long time, because this is Putin's dream to have that. And that is what's happening here. And I mean, there's
yeah,
no other way to say it because it's the truth. He is really lying to Americans, and this is going to get distributed, and it's going to be distributed in right wing media. And I'm sure Fox News is talking about it. This is really upsetting to watch once again. And I hope that people call him out again. I know my former boss, Mike Pence, has called him out on it. He's like, no, that's not what happened. This is not accurate. And so I think
yeah,
that's what needs to continue to be done. But I think we are watching just another erosion of national security, foreign policy, and just another thing. And going
yeah,
back to CBS, I mean, when they're talking about
yeah.
Ukraine, they're telling the truth.
They're
They're talking
telling the
about
truth.
Greenland. They're just talking
They're
about
doing the
facts.
news. Yeah,
They're doing facts about telling the truth. And that's what Chris Krebs did. That's what Miles Taylor did. And there are others who have since substantiated the claims that Miles made, people who lived it, people who were in the room, like myself and others. And
yeah,
so, I mean, this is truth tellers, and Donald Trump does not like it when people tell facts and truth that are not in line with his version of what is facts and truth. And again, very similar to what people like Putin do. And
yeah,
it's just so linear now. It's upsetting, and I think, it's gonna continue. Something
yeah.
else will happen this week or next week, and they're just going to keep, chipping away, and it's up to us to take a stand, and I'm watching congressional leaders and seeing, like, are you just gonna let these people get away with it?
Yeah, I mean, and there's a through line here. I absolutely think there's a through line here between, these lawsuits against these media organizations, what he did with Miles and Chris, and this, these comments that he made in the Oval Office today, contemplating the idea of deporting U.S. citizens to a prison in El Salvador. He uses these examples of, well, if somebody hits an elderly woman over the head with a baseball bat, he talks about those types of things, but you have to wonder, to whom else would this apply? Where, who else would fall into the category, of people that Trump would want to send off to this place? And somebody was asking earlier, Olivia, during the comments when you were speaking, who is going to stand up to Trump? Who is going to stop Trump? And my attitude has been, and I've been talking about this, and I know you feel the same way. It's all of us.
Yes.
It's all of us working together collectively. It's all of us speaking out collectively. That's why I'm doing this show. That's why we're doing this town hall tomorrow night in New York City. It's sold out. The tickets were free, but we've given them all out. And I know you're going to be there, but I mean, Michael's going to be there. I'm going to talk to Michael in just a few moments.
Mhm.
And that's what this is all about. It's about all of us coming together and saying, this ain't going to fly, man. You can try to do this, but we're going to stop you. We're going to stand in your way. We're going to say no. That's not right. That's not who we are.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna take all of us, and it's gonna
Yeah.
take when people take actions on a certain person or population that it doesn't impact you, you still have to stand. You have to take a
Yeah.
stand because it's really about the greater rule of law and what it means as a, target people individually and organizations, and what are we going to do to take a stand together? And it's right. And look, and we have to be loud. I mean, they
Yeah.
want to. I can tell you, and you know this.
Yeah.
I think they were hoping that that Oval Office action with my former colleagues and people that I know well, who are my friends, would silence me, and I'm only going to get louder
Yeah.
because I think it's important to stand up for each other.
Absolutely. It really seems he's leaning on Stephen Miller quite a bit, doesn't he? Really
I
seems like it.
always, I always said that should he return to the Oval Office, Stephen Miller would be the mastermind, and it certainly seems to be playing out that way between him and Roosevelt and the enablers that they have placed in these agencies. He really is sort of the person pulling the levers.
Yeah.
And I saw it today. I mean, I watched
Yeah.
that press conference and I was like, he is celebrating right now. It enraged me. I'm going to be honest with you, because he doesn't have people internally now that are guardrails that are trying to sort of control like what is happening here and trying to follow the law. That is no longer there. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part, from what
Yeah,
we're seeing.
he seemed to be speaking to Stephen during that, availability, that press availability with Bukele. He kept referring to Stephen. I think that's what it sounded like to
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
And you're right. He's almost becoming like a Bannon or Karl Rove type. I mean, is he more powerful than Susie Wiles? It almost sounds like he is.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I guarantee you. If
Wild.
if what if one of them was gonna go or get fired, it will be her, before
Interesting.
him. He has been in the inner circle. He has attempted these things before. I can tell you that
Hmm.
directly, having lived this with Stephen Miller and navigated him, in these situations. He has attempted some of these things. Some of these discussions were had, during the first term, but he was
Hmm.
not able to push the needle and like the boundaries of it as much because there were people in place and there were lawyers in place who were like, no, that's not going to fly. We're not even going to attempt that. Sometimes his enablers in this inner circle would be there and they would say, well,
Yeah.
we'll just let the law catch up with us, like I've said. But this is a classic Stephen Miller move, and it should worry us because I think there are a lot more to come on this strategy. And it is
Yeah.
honestly, it's Project 2025 in full implementation. It really is. I mean, you can go through, you can look at chapters in there. It is, I mean, it is there. It is the
Yeah.
footprint and the playbook.
No, it's so true, and we talked about this during the campaign. Yeah, I think you and I talked about this a number of
Yes.
times, and, you go through Project 2025, and it's all pretty much laid out, chapter and verse, everything that they wanted to do during the campaign that Trump went out there and denied he wanted to do. He said he had nothing to do with it, and then as soon as they get into office, they put Roosevelt in charge of, OMB, and then they just go right into implementing all of these things, from one page to the next. It's wild.
Yeah, and
Um,
Russ has all the lines, right? That's the thing. He has all the budgetary lines. He really,
yeah.
really knows the government and everything that there is to it.
Yeah, they have the true
Um,
believers in there this time. They don't have the folks like yourself, folks like Miles who are behind the scenes saying, "What about the law? What about the Constitution? Let me get back to you. I want to talk to the vice president about this."
yeah, we were
Nobody's minding the store.
no, and there were
Yeah.
conversations about like how do we get around this situation and how do we get to the president and explain to him these things, and I don't think that that's happening along. And Donald
Yeah.
Trump, when he has these enablers, they appeal to his worst tendencies,
Yeah.
and I think power also gets to people, right? Jim is a lot of it,
Absolutely.
and I think
Absolute
that's
power.
we're seeing it. We're seeing
Yeah.
we saw it in the Signal Gate. We saw it in others where they start to get overzealous, and we can see when power sort of craven powerness in people's heads gets to them and they stopped making these rational decisions and they think that they're
Yeah.
unstoppable.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but they're
Olivia,
not.
lots. Yeah, and lots more to talk about tomorrow evening. I'm so excited you're going to be a part of this. I have to send. I'm going to send maybe a helicopter to get you. We'll figure out. We'll figure out a way to get you up to New York.
I'll figure it
Um,
out.
planes, trains, and automobiles, but hopefully it won't be too. Save your receipts and send them to me if you need me to. But I always appreciate talking
Thanks.
to you, and thank you for what you do. There are so many people who have chimed in and thanked you time and again. Thank you for what you do, Olivia. That's one reason why I wanted to have you there, because everybody's so appreciative
Thanks.
of what you've done, your voice, and it means a lot to all of us.
Yeah, and I think that the message to thank you all back is that uh, we're only as strong as like the fact that you have our backs, and
Yeah,
remember that. And that is why it's important to talk about what happened to Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor and others, because uh, it's important to let people know that you're there and that we're not
absolutely.
alone and that you're going to
Exactly.
be there when these things happen.
Thanks, Olivia. Appreciate it.
Thanks, and see
All
you
right.
soon.
See you tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Appreciate
everyone.
it. All right. Take care. The wonderful Olivia Troye. Hey, let's go right to Michael Cohen. It's a Michael Monday, as we all like to say, and we're going to preview what's going to be taking place tomorrow night. I want to get Michael's take on everything that's transpired today. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Jim, how are you, my brother?
Good, good. Let's just
You
jump
know, I
right
was
into.
listening. I was
Yeah,
listening to
go for it.
Olivia,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
And you. And listen, Olivia is phenomenal, and she's 100% right. We can't
yeah,
forget about people like Miles Taylor or Chris Krebs.
yeah.
The same way I was begging America, don't forget about me. Don't
Yes,
forget. Don't forget that I was there. I was the litmus test. And I
yeah,
know better than anyone, not because I'm smarter than anyone, not because I'm clairvoyant. I'm not like, what's his name? The great Karnak,
yeah.
right? I don't
Johnny
have,
Carson. Yeah,
right, Johnny Carson. I don't have some Swami hat with a crystal ball. It's
yeah,
simply because I lived it. And I
yeah.
don't want to see what happened to me happen to Miles Taylor or Chris Krebs. I don't want to see it, in fact, happen to anyone, Republican, Democrat, or Independent. But here's
Yes,
the sad part, it's going to happen because they
yeah.
control the full levers of government, from the White House to the Supreme Court to the Senate to the House. And
And
they're
so,
going
Michael,
to.
when you heard Trump say today he would like to send U.S. citizens down to El Salvador, that didn't surprise you.
No, but what I'll tell you, the only thing that I was happy to hear him say, believe it or not, was
Yeah,
it'll be violent criminals. You're
yeah. I heard
talking
him say
people
that.
who beat somebody over the head,
Sure.
or rape an 80-year-old lady. I don't even know where he thinks of
Where
this
does he
stuff.
think of this stuff?
I
I don't know
don't
where he.
know.
It's
I
so
don't know. It's
strange. Yeah,
disturbing.
it's disturbing. Why are these violent thoughts in his head,
I don't
Michael?
know. I mean, does he think that that's what America is? That America is this sort of, what was it, Escape from New York,
Yeah, Snake
or
Plissken or whatever.
right
Right.
with
Kurt
Snake
Russell.
Plissken, that everybody's
Yeah,
running around, everybody's got a gun, everybody's looking to rape somebody or beat them over the head
yeah.
with a baseball bat. I mean, this
I know. I
is
just took my
like
dog for a
gangster
walk.
shit.
It's 75 degrees in DC. It's beautiful. Nothing's happening. Everybody's just having a nice time. Crime is at one of its lowest levels in a generation in this country. And yes, we have upticks in crime. It happened after COVID and so on. But this idea that we have to round people up and send them to El Salvador for these fictional crimes that he's just concocting in his brain, it is disturbing. But it makes me wonder, Michael, what's next? I mean, he's talking about going after people like Chris Krebs and Miles Taylor and sending the
They're in
DOJ after
trouble.
them. Yeah,
They're in big trouble. And you know what?
yeah.
I'm certain that this is going to be an issue that comes up tomorrow at our town hall. And
Oh,
I'm thankful
absolutely.
that Olivia is going to be there because
Yeah,
she also, like myself, I know Miles very well. And I
yeah,
like him, and he's impressive as a young man. And when I say young man, I'm talking about compared to me as an
yeah,
alta. I mean, I'm an alta cocker,
yeah,
But I got to
yeah,
be honest with you.
yeah. I'm
I'm
almost there too.
nervous. I'm nervous for him.
Yeah, me
I
too.
really am,
Me too.
because I don't know whether or not it's going to be even worse for him than what government. When government wants you, I don't care who you are. I don't
Yeah.
care how you think that you are above reproach. I've never done anything wrong in my life. Doesn't make a difference.
And it
When the
sounds like
full
the way
weight.
the situation that you went through, because you started to criticize Trump and you started to say things, and then lo and behold, bing, bang, boom, Michael's they're taking Michael away. They're raiding his
Well,
apartment.
So let me say this. It was actually before I was even critical of
Yeah,
Trump. It was because the enablers back then, and we have worse one now, but
yeah,
the enablers back then whispered into his ear, Michael this, Michael that. You need to detach, you need to distract, you need to deflect, you need to throw him under the bus to protect yourself. And they kept
yeah,
doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it until ultimately it happened. And the best is
yeah.
when he turned around and he said, he had his arms crossed at that big giant table, and he
Right.
turned around and he goes, well, I can't, it's disgusting what the FBI did. They raided one of my lawyer's homes and law office. He goes, it's un American. Wait, wait. I was like, serious? Now I'm just one of his lawyers? Yeah, I happen to be the lawyer that for over a decade you called every morning at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and at 11 or 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Don't tell me now what's the matter? You forgot my name? This
Right.
is the problem. This is the
Yeah.
problem. He throws you under the bus and then he moves on.
And the other thing too is, why is it that he's still thinking about Chris Krebs, who all he did was say that the 2020 election was okay? Why is he still thinking about Miles Taylor, who wrote this book and this op-ed 7 years ago? It's strange.
Well, because it's still an ongoing situation in his head.
Yeah.
Remember that every single time he has a press conference, he'll always mention that he won the 2020 election, that it was rigged. He cannot let that go.
Can't let it
And
go.
Miles
But he's
Taylor and
president.
Chris Krebs, I understand. You're thinking logically. He's thinking like a petulant child. I won it. Biden lost it. It was stolen from me,
Yeah.
plain and simple.
And Michael, but what about? But he's going after CBS too. I mean, there's something unraveling here. It seems, because he's going out. He watches 60 Minutes. He explodes. His temper erupts. He gets on Truth Social. He instructs Brendan Carr at the FCC to go after 60 Minutes and CBS. You can't say anything critical. You can't raise
Nope.
questions about what he's
Nope.
doing.
Let me
What
ask
is
you.
this? This is
Okay.
America. You should
Nope.
be able to say whatever you want about the president, pretty
Nope.
much.
Nope. And nope. That's not how it works in Trump's America. To
Yeah.
those watching, to 6,000 folks, we need 20,000 people watching.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
constantly say, like with tomorrow, make sure
Tomorrow
you
night.
share the Substack. Make sure you share
Yeah.
the Jim Acosta show or watch it
Yeah.
on the Real Michael Cohen. Make sure
We
you watch it and you tell others to watch it as well. And there's a reason why I keep saying this, because the only way to defeat Trump's America, which by the way looks eerily similar to Vladimir Putin's Russia, right?
Yeah.
Or that looks like Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
or Kim Jong Un's North Korea, right?
Yeah.
Or President, what was his name? Burkle, the one that was there
Yeah.
today, right, from El
Yeah.
Salvador.
He sounds like a dick. He sounds like a tin pot dictator. I mean,
You go ahead and you criticize them. Remember
yeah.
what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. Remember what happened to, for example, remember what happened to Kim Jong Un's uncle. Remember
Yeah.
what happened to Alexei Navalny. All right?
Yeah.
Let me be very clear. Trump is setting the parameters that you either it kiss his ass or get your ass kicked. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
CBS will capitulate just as ABC did. This is the problem with
Yeah.
mainstream media. This is the problem even with cable news media. They are
Yeah.
more concerned about creating profit for their shareholders than they are about
Yeah.
disseminating truth.
Well,
And
I tell you, that's why independent media is having a revolution in this country right now. That's why people are watching Michael wherever he is when he does his show here on Substack and in other places. That's why people are gravitating over to Substack, because they want to hear from independent voices. They're pissed about what's happening in the media right now, and people should be. And Michael, I mean, the other thing that we have to get to at some point in all of this is what is going to happen. Um, I mean, you and I were talking about the markets last week, and I hate to make a hard right turn here, but I mean, it goes to his psyche. It goes to the way he acts. It goes to the way he leads. What is the point of all these tariffs that he's trying to put in place if he's going to carve out all these exceptions? He put out an exception over the weekend for cell phones and for microchips. So okay, so then Apple's stock takes off today. What's the point of having tariffs on China if you're going to accept certain industries and so on? And what he just seems to be going back and forth, right to left, up and down, side to side. He's all over the place.
It's called chaos. It's
Yeah,
called literally, it's called governing via chaos.
yeah.
I wrote about it. I wrote about it in my Substack
That's true.
today.
You did. Yeah,
I mean, this is what they do. You see, the end game is not about the tariffs. They may tell you that it is, but it's not.
yeah,
The end game is Trump remaining in power ad infinitum. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to distract you. And think of it as a
yeah,
magician, right? You know the old coin that you used to do to a child? You take the
yeah,
coin, you put it in your hand. You know which hand it is? Poof, it's not in either, right? Because it's
yeah,
already down your sleeve. It's called distraction.
yeah,
He's distracting the American people from the big picture. And what's the
yeah,
big picture? Complete and total control over government. It's exactly what we had said before. It's what I've been
yeah.
yelling about. Jim, you and I talked
I
about
know.
this
If he came back in
five
office,
years ago.
yeah,
Five
that's right.
years ago. And then again at the DNC when I
Yeah,
said he has every intention. And when I say Donald, let me be very clear. And I want all of our followers to understand this.
yeah,
Something that most people miss. This is not about just Donald Trump.
yeah,
And it's not only Donald Trump, it's all of these enablers that are around him.
yeah.
These enablers see a benefit for themselves to turn
What?
America into an oligarchy where they, like what we have in Russia, all right,
Yeah,
are the oligarchs. They are the senators of Rome. And that's
yeah,
what they want to be. And they're willing to rip up the fucking Constitution. They're willing to trample on it for their own egos, for their own financial benefit. And the funny thing, too, the people who are these enablers, Jim, they have more money than they can spend in 100 lifetimes. So
yeah.
what do they need? Another airplane? Let me go one step further. Did you even hear today that I believe that they are trying to reaffirm the old IRS code where you could depreciate your purchase of an aircraft in year
Oh
number
yeah.
one?
I mean, I'm sure everybody's lining up. All of these industries are lining up, and they've learned the lesson. If they just humiliate themselves for a little bit, if they bend over, they bow down, kiss the ring, kiss whatever, they'll get these kinds of little special handouts. And I mean, this is what Alexei Navalny was warning about in Russia. This is why he became the viral internet sensation that he did on all these different platforms before what happened to him in Russia, because he this is the kind of corruption that eats away at a democracy and just basically turns one man into a dictator. And that's the stuff that we all have to worry about. And Michael is very much going to be on our mind tomorrow night. And I'm glad we have the lineup that we have. I have it right here. Here it is, the No Fear Tour. There it is. Me and Michael at the top. We got Don Lemon coming. Don is, he's a national treasure and he knows how to call it out. We got Harry Dunn. We got Tara Setmeyer. We got Olivia Troye. And then there's one other guy in here. I think he's a friend of ours. As a matter of fact, his name is Matt Friend, and he is the best impressionist when it comes to Donald Trump,
He,
maybe
he's
next to
like
Michael
he's like
Cohen.
the Richard Little of our time.
He really
You
is.
know, he
He's
really is.
incredible.
He's funny as hell. You know, I remember when I had met him about I don't know year and a half ago. I said to him, "Sometimes do you forget
Yeah.
what your own voice sounds like?" Because he and it was funny. He was trying to imitate my voice, just like Ben Stiller, who I've known for like 25 years. You know, Ben
I
Stiller was
gotta I
trying
gotta
to.
think Ben can do a good Michael Cohen.
Nah. He tries. He tries, but it's not good. He goes, I need practice, and that's what Matt
Close but
Friend
no
said to me.
cigar. I've been working on mine too, but maybe we'll bust that out tomorrow night. But but the other thing is to get serious for a moment, not to, and then we'll go back and we'll have some fun. I'm glad we have Olivia there because
Me
Olivia
too.
lived through this. You lived through this. Tara Setmeyer, she was a Republican aide up on Capitol Hill for many years. She can speak to the fact that you have members of Congress They're just where is their spine? Where is their backbone? Why aren't they standing up? When you have the president of the United States talking about taking Americans off the street, deporting them to El Salvador, are you kidding me? What is happening? Why aren't members? And so Tara can speak to that. We have Harry, who obviously lived through what took place on January 6th.
Everybody on that stage,
Yeah,
at one point or another, in some way, shape, or form, have
yes,
experienced some sort of a kick in the ass with, as they say, steel tip boots
yeah,
from this Trump administration in one way, shape, or form.
correct, correct.
I
They
believe
can all speak
mine
to it.
wasn't to the ass. Mine was right to the groin. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, who else? Not once but twice gets incarcerated. In all
yeah,
fairness, for another guy getting his pecker pulled by a porn star. I mean, let's be real about the entire thing.
yeah,
And tomorrow's going to be great because
yeah.
there's no holding back.
Yeah,
The one thing I've always said
this
to
is some of the
you,
Vegas act material folks will get tomorrow night, but just a sneak preview there. But yeah, no, as you were saying,
what one of the things that I had said, what we are is raw
yeah,
and unfiltered. And that's the beauty of Substack. That's the beauty of the Jim Acosta show. That's the
yeah,
beauty of my shows. I don't have to hold back.
yeah.
And
That's
you
why
know
it says
what?
no fear. That's why it says right here, no fear. The no fear tour.
Now you just answered, by the way, your own question.
Yeah,
You asked, why are these Republican Congress members, these senators, these governors, why are they spineless? Why are they feckless?
yeah,
Fear. Fear.
yes,
That's
yes,
what he's instilling. Let me give you the example. You know, think about, for example, the canine program that the military used, that police used, that they used in World War II,
yeah,
right? They're in the concentration camps, the German shepherds, and so that are fierce, fierce. The fear of being bit and mauled by a dog kept
yeah,
people in line, knowing that they were marching to their own deaths.
yeah,
Trump is basically treating all of his enablers, whether it's the Elon Musks, the Lutnicks, the Bessons, the Pam Bondis, the Marco Rubios,
yeah,
whomever, like canines, like fierce canines. And
yeah.
who are
These are the
they?
people we're going to sick on you. These are the people we're going to come after you if you don't bow down and praise the dear leader. But but Michael, it's a good group, but we're going to try to have a little fun too. Matt Friend's going to be there. Don Lemon's going to be there. I mean, Don is he's in a class by himself, and I'm really pleased that we've got this lineup. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to. I mean, we're going to get serious. And somebody was just saying earlier, what's the strategy? We were going to talk strategy. We're going to talk about all these things. We're going to get people's questions. We're going to stream it out live. If you've got thoughts, you've got comments, you've got questions, you can submit those. We're going to try to get as many of those out to everybody as we possibly can. But Michael, this is something that's long overdue. You and I talked about this 1 or 2 months ago or something like that.
And even longer than that, before
Yeah,
we were both
yeah,
even on Substack. So
yeah,
to those of
yeah,
my subscribers, those that follow me, make sure you follow Jim Acosta too. And please,
yeah,
by the way, if you're part of Jim's group, please follow me as well.
yeah.
Why? Why? I say this all the time and I mean it. Do you remember during the mortgage crisis? You remember that there was like $1 trillion lost in the marketplace, and
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
not a single banker, not a single banker was held accountable.
yeah,
And there's been books written about this all over the place. It's called Too Big to Fail. It's an adage that everybody here has absolutely heard of at least once in their life. Too big to fail.
yeah,
My desire, along with Jim's together, is to build a community so fucking big that we cannot be ignored. That
correct.
when we roll up, it's like the mob on steroids. That we come, no, I'm dead serious
Yeah,
here,
no, I hear
right?
you.
That
Yeah,
we roll up with such fire and fury, so
yeah,
fierce as an army of voters. An army of voters is more
yeah,
powerful than an army with their ARs.
yeah.
Remember that, all right?
Yeah, well,
Because
I've been talking about this for a while, and you and I have talked about this. But it's about people power. It's about the power of the people standing together and just insisting on this country not going down the tubes. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And, there are folks who've been asking questions. Am I going to be able to live stream it? Yes, you're going to be able to live stream it. We're going to get
It
you those
starts
details.
at 6 p.m.
6
Eastern
p.m.
Standard Time. To
Yeah,
those of you MAGAs that are trying to troll us, that's 3 o'clock your time in Pacific.
exactly. And the other thing too is it's going to be recorded, and it's also going to go into our recordings, and so you'll be able to watch it on Michael's. If you're following Michael's, if you're subscribing to Michael, you can watch it on his. You can watch it on mine. There are going to be multiple platforms out on YouTube. We're going to make sure everybody can see it after it goes into record mode, but we're hoping to get a lot of people watching live.
Yeah, I mean, I truly want to have more people with us watching this live
Yeah.
than watch the Super Bowl. Imagine the message that something like
In
that,
our minds, we hope that, but yeah.
and look, I'm not here to piss on Bernie and AOC's parade. I give them both tremendous, tremendous
Oh, that's been amazing.
accolades for
Yeah.
what they are doing. But I do want to say this to our followers, and I want to tell you what makes us different. They speak to the same people that both Jim and I saw and met with and shook hands with and spoke to at the DNC. These people are already all in on the
Yeah.
Democratic platform. That's not who we're going after. Our goal is to go after the independent, the
Yeah.
silent majority, the 2 million plus people who decided to vote the opposite direction, believing, for whatever the reason may be,
Yeah.
believing that Donald J. Trump was the better choice over Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
That to me is the person I want to talk to. That's
Right.
the
We don't want to
person
just
Jim wants to
That's
talk
right.
to.
We don't want to just be in our own echo chamber. That's what the other side does. We don't want to do that. We want to reach Democrats, of course, independents, people who think that voting doesn't matter, doesn't count. Why throw my vote away? Blah, blah, blah. We want those folks too. Obviously, we want Republicans. I mean, look at Olivia Troye, who's coming. Look at Tara Setmeyer, who's coming. Anybody who cares about this country, that's who we want involved. That's who we want watching. That's who we want participating. So if you can't be there in person, you can send in your question, send in your comment. We're going to try to, as much as possible, incorporate that into the show.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want this, and neither does Jim. Neither of us want this isn't an anti Trump town hall. It is
Yeah.
not. What this is a pro democracy, pro
Yep.
constitution town hall, whereby what the GOP is doing, and when I say the GOP, the Donald Trump is not the GOP. He may be its leader, but there are too
Yeah.
many enablers there that are giving him that boost up. What we don't want, not today, not tomorrow, or ever, is to let them sit back there numb and feckless and worthless and limpless and
Yeah.
lifeless, doing what? Saying to their dear leader, sure,
Yeah.
it doesn't
No, that's right.
bother us if they violate Michael Cohen's constitutional right. It doesn't bother me if they violate Jim Acosta or Chris Krebs or Miles Taylor's First Amendment constitutional right, or
Yeah.
any American who
Yeah.
disagrees with his platform. All
Yeah.
right?
Well, and the other thing too is, and Michael, you and I have talked about this, is we want to say thank you to all of the people who have been subscribing. And that's why we opened the tickets up to the town hall to our paid subscribers first, the folks who leave those comments every day. We appreciate them very much. And we're going to continue to do that as much as we possibly can. Show our appreciation to you, the subscriber, for tuning in, for doing what you do to support what we do here in independent media. It's vitally important. Michael, you and I have been talking about 30 minutes. I've been talking about an hour here, including my conversation with Olivia. You didn't see a bunch of damn ads, here and there all over the place here on Substack. And, so we want to say thank you to the folks out there who have been so nice to, participate and also support what we do.
Right. It's
Yeah.
it's true. By the way, one of the things that I truly have spent a lot of time today on, and I wake up very, very early. I have, as you know, I've talked about it multiple times and in different places. I have terrible PTSD. Sleeping
Yeah.
is nearly an impossibility to sleep
Yeah.
straight through the night. I talk a lot of it to Lev Parnas, by the way, because he's sort of experienced on a smaller level the same sort of
Oh, I get
bullshit
it.
that I did.
I get it. I get it. I've had
So
that
I've been
struggle
working
too. Yeah.
on a statement, and obviously I'm looking forward very much, Jim, for yours tomorrow. Because I think it's the right way to start.
Yeah.
This town hall. I want you to understand where Jim and I are coming from. This is not about us
Yeah.
individually. This is about us collectively. Again,
Correct.
the goal is to build an army. And when I
Yeah.
mean an army, I'm not talking about even 1 million people or two. I'm talking like a 10,
Yeah.
20, 50 million person army that
Yeah.
when again so big we are voting warriors so that
Yeah.
all of this bullshit. Let me tell you the reason why this is so important, and I can't stress it enough. When you think of political campaigns, what does everybody think of, Jim? Donations. That's all they ever,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
soon as they fuck up, the first thing they're doing is they're sending you a text message. Oh my God, the Republicans are doing X, Y, and Z. Send me $15.
Yeah.
Send
Yeah. Yeah.
$25. Fuck you, right? I tell you what, fuck you. I mean, that old playbook doesn't
Yeah.
work anymore. But
Yeah.
imagine an army of
Yeah.
50 million voters turning around.
Well,
We change the outcome of the election. And by the
yeah.
way, there are plenty of Democrats who I wish to God would either retire. There are plenty that have just come in
Well, we'll
that I
probably get
think,
into that too. We'll probably get into that too, Michael, because it's on a lot of people's minds right now. I mean, I talked to a couple of authors of a book last week who wrote about, I don't want to go down that road again, but like maybe we wouldn't be in the jam that we're in right now as a country. Wondering if our financial system is going to, go over a cliff if certain folks had decided to pack it in instead of insisting on running for a second term. All right, I'm going to hold this up one more time. Here it is again. The No Fear Tour. Yes, I will post this. Somebody said, "Will you post that again?" Yes, we'll post it again. And here are the folks.
I know the reason you want Jim to post this, you can get my picture. Trust me, it's
Yeah, I know.
online, it's
They're all going to
everywhere.
copy and paste your picture. Michael Cohen's picture is now going to be in everybody's phone, which is that was probably the ulterior motive in the whole thing. But that's
I, I think you're right,
no
Jim.
photoshopping here too. This is exact. You see Michael in person. This is exactly what he looks like at all times. So
By the way, that was taken not even by me. That was taken when I went to the grand opening. I went to the premiere of the movie The Apprentice. That's
Oh,
where
there.
that's where it
Oh,
was taken.
there.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
why is that why you prefer that we use that photo? That
No,
makes perfect sense
it's one
now.
that's high definition and it shows it better. That's the only reason
Yeah.
why.
Well, Michael,
So,
I'm looking forward to
next
seeing you
time, you know what I'm
tomorrow.
going to give you next time? I'm going to give you my high school graduation picture.
that's
When
that's what we should do.
when I'm rock solid benching like 295.
295, man. Oh man. All right. Well, I got to see that. I'm guessing it's maybe a little less than that now.
Yeah, and my hair was nice and dark and pretty puffy.
I bet it
but
was.
but listen. In finality here,
Yeah.
I want to as well just thank everybody, and again remind everyone, if you subscribe to mine, make sure you subscribe to Jim's. Make
That's
sure
right.
you
Vice
please
versa.
subscribe to mine, and please do me a favor, stay with us.
Yeah.
Make sure that you join this army, this voting army,
Yeah.
and make sure you tell at least one person to do the same.
Yeah.
Imagine if each and every one of you got one person to join the Substack army, we will be unstoppable in under 3 months. I mean
Yeah.
it.
Well, and we appreciate Substack for helping us
We
sponsor this
do.
event as well. Michael, great to see you. We got to save some of this mojo. We got to save some of this energy for tomorrow night. We can't,
Jim,
you got to rest up. You got to have a nice
the
dinner.
energy, Jim.
Maybe have a little
There's no way
pasta
to keep
tonight.
our energy down.
I want Michael to get at least 5 hours of sleep tonight. Michael, you take good care of yourself this evening.
I will see you tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it, brother.
All
Thank
right.
you again to everybody.
Thanks, Michael. All
Appreciate
right.
it.
See you tomorrow. Okay. Okay, well, here goes nothing, everybody. That was Michael Cohen, another successful Michael Monday. And as Michael and I were saying, and I'll post this as soon as I can this evening. We believe all of these folks are coming. I'll be there. Michael will be there. We think Don's going to be there. Harry Dunn. Tara Setmeyer, Matt Friend, Olivia Troye. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get serious. We're going to talk about a lot of serious subjects. We're going to hear from the folks in the audience. We're going to try to stream it all live out to the people out there, and it's going to be hopefully a lot of fun. And it's also an opportunity, as I said earlier, to thank all of you for tuning in every day. All right. In the meantime, thank you everybody for watching. My thanks to Olivia Troye. Of course, my thanks to Michael Cohen. Until tomorrow. I believe I will be doing this show live, the Jim McCosh Show live from Theater 555 in New York City, in New York, New York, tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. And then we're going to open the doors at 5:30. If you don't have a ticket, please don't. As much as I love you, you can't come in. There's only a capacity there that we have to meet. But the doors open at 5:30. I believe the show is going to start around 6-ish, and we're going to end around 7:30-ish, something like that. And but it'll be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. And of course, we're going to do our damnedest to get it streamed out to you live and the recording so you can watch it later and everything else. But in the meantime, thanks everybody for watching. Still reporting from Washington. I'm Jim Acosta. Have a good evening, everybody. Take care.